Hello, all, and welcome to the newest episode of the Noobs and Knockouts Podcast. I'm Austin. I'm a knockout, watched a lot of wrestling.
I'm David. I'm a noob. Haven't watched nearly enough wrestling, but I can tell you this. What I have watched can sometimes be wild and wacky, and it's rather dizzying at times to the point where I think I'm seeing double. I
had no idea where that was going until the end. So as we finally have, as one door opens, another door closes around here. And finally, we're closing the door on the Undertaker fighting his copycat. We're watching SummerSlam 1994.
Woo. This will be a thing.
Yeah. To be fair, we are not watching all of SummerSlam 1994. As a reminder to our past viewers as well as our newer viewers, we don't watch all of a pay-per-view because we have pretty limited time together to record these. I have to cut stuff down for us to be able to do these pay-per-view shows, which are kind of important because, crazy thought. What if storylines culminated on a pay-per-view?
Oh man, that's some revolutionary shit right there, dude. I'm gonna need to sleep on that.
Yeah. So I will cover the wrestling card and say what we will and what we won't watch.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first match on SummerSlam 1994, which we're not watching, the Head Shrinkers versus Bam Bam Bigelow and Erwin R. Shyster. Apparently that got bumped to main card. It was advertised as a pre-show match last we were here, and they were like, you know what? People should pay to see this.
Why?
In comparison, they made the pre-show the dark match, Adam Bomb versus Quang, which I believe I've mentioned both of them, but we've not seen either of them.
Yeah, I think our very first episode, you just when you were dumping about every single new generation person that was on there, but we have not seen them, I don't think.
Yes. Yeah, when I was being like, new generation has a lot of dumb characters. For example,
I mentioned here's literally every character in the new generation.
Yeah. Then we are the second match, which we are also not going to watch. Rip to this one is Alundra Blaze versus Bull Nakano for the WWF Women's Championship.
Oh,
that was the cut that hurt the most to me. I wanted to watch that match, but I try to plan these out in terms of what is the most narratively important for us based on what we've already talked about. And in that sense, I can't justify doing Blaze and Nakano.
That's fair. We got to watch Bull Nakano last time, and it was awesome. So I'll accept this one.
But I'm sure it was a very good match.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. The first match we are going to watch, and the third match on the show, is Diesel with Shawn Michaels in his corner versus Razor Ramon with Walter Payton in his corner for the Intercontinental Championship.
Okie dokie.
I want to say that I gave David a choice on this. Is that between this and the next match of which one do you want to watch? I can't decide between. And he picked this one, and so that's why we're watching that, as opposed to the next thing I'm going to say.
Okay.
The fourth match on the card, Lex Luger versus Tatanka.
Oh yeah, I wonder why I picked one over the other.
Yeah, in the battle for Lex Luger's soul, I guess. Is it really a battle for his soul when Lex Luger swears that he isn't with Ted DiBiase?
Yeah, that whole storyline is just the stupidest shit. I don't understand, Ted DiBiase to me is just such an enigma in terms of why he's such a thing, because I just don't get it. Every Ted DiBiase thing we've watched is some weirdly, needlessly convoluted retread of the same shtick every single time, and it doesn't get any more charming with the passing time. We saw the thing with the Andre the Giant. the Andre the Giant Championship. That just felt disrespectful to Andre. He's kind of doing he's one of the pilots of the freaking Undertaker versus Undertaker thing, and then he for some reason just over here pretending like he signed Lex Luger, even though Luger's clearly like, no, you didn't, bro. And I have no idea what the narrative setup here is and what's supposed to get paid off. Like,
unfortunately, I know the payoff, but we're saving that for the back half.
Okay.
It's not great.
Of course it's not. Shocker.
Anyway, then we're skipping match 5, Jeff Jarrett versus Mabel, country versus rap. Great.
Cool.
Tale as old as 1991.
Tale as old as 1991.
Finally, the next match we're going to watch. We skip more matches on this show than we watch. And a big reason for that is because this match takes an hour of this pay-per-view broadcast time. If you include the stuff that happens before and after, it takes an hour. Bret Hart versus Owen Hart in a steel cage for the WWF Championship.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I have high expectations of that.
Oh my God.
This is the big blow off to this storyline. Bret and Owen, they don't really get along as characters until Bret Hart turns heel in 96. But in terms of like their big like fighting each other story, that it kind of culminates here with this match right here.
That's I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot that like this was going on because like this era is so bogged down with all the other crazy bullshit. Like the sibling rivalry thing has been almost felt like a footnote, which has been a bizarre feeling for me watching it because like every time we watch it, I've acknowledged it, and I'm like, something about this doesn't feel quite right, and it probably is just that like it didn't get like it felt weirdly like side plotty for what it was.
Now, as someone who has watched this week to week for 5 months, it doesn't have a huge focus for a WWE title feud.
Mm-hmm.
That is
and especially between such legendary.
It is a blood feud between brothers, and it kind of doesn't move very fast pace, and it doesn't have a lot of focus most weeks.
Yeah.
So, which is such a choice, but all right.
But I'm excited.
The match should be good anyway.
Oh my God. Okay. Like, now that I'm realizing this thing is going to happen, and after all the wonderful things I had to say about Bret Hart versus 1-2-3 Kid, I am legitimately really excited for this part. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's going to be something really good here. Okay.
And then of course, our main event, the last match, of course, The Undertaker versus The Undertaker. And don't worry, Leslie Nielsen is on this show to finish cracking the case.
What the hell?
Anyway, so Sunday Night Slam is August 21st, obviously a Sunday. This pay-per-view aired August 29th on Monday night pay-per-view. That's WWE didn't always do pay-per-views every Sundays only. So that's a very it took them a few years to be like, let's just only do Sunday shows. And so this SummerSlam was on a Monday, so it is a little bit of a weird oddity to look back on.
That's interesting. So this aired in place of Raw then.
Yes, there is no Raw on August 29th.
That is interesting.
That might have been their way of trying to get around the preemption problem that they have, in that before the year 2003, I want to say 2002, 2003, somewhere around that time period. WWE would every year get preempted on the USA Network by the Westminster Dog Show and coverage of the US Open tennis tournament. So this is around the time that would happen, and WWE usually found ways to get around that problem. They would air Raw sometimes on different days, or maybe this might have been a way to have, have some content on Monday night, even if it's a pay-per-view, as opposed to just not having the show.
I mean, that in some ways that is smart for a time when they didn't have the power to just, take whatever time slot they fucking wanted.
Yeah,
but
at this point in time, both as kind of like as a proven ratings juggernaut for USA Network, and because USA Network doesn't cover the US Open anymore, and if they still cover the dog show, it doesn't get that good of ratings. Now it's more like we will never move WWE.
Imagine getting preempted by the dog show, dude.
Yeah. We didn't talk about it. I probably threw it out there, but I don't remember is that the first episode of Nitro aired on a week they were preempted by the US Open. That was by complete accident on WCW's part, but couldn't have worked out better for them.
That is funny.
Yeah, but anyway, yes. We're still deep in the era. Like nowadays, WWE would never get preempted for anything on USA Network. They're all in on that train. But at this point in time, they're like, whatever, get off here. We got tennis to show. Get the fuck out. Come back in a couple weeks. So yeah, so this is the SummerSlam Monday night. But there was Raw on August 22nd, and I watched it, and I wish I didn't. Okay, here's why. There was no new content.
What?
I mean, there was in that they had Randy Savage and Vince McMahon in a studio talking about SummerSlam. But otherwise, it was basically a Sunday Night Slam rerun.
What?
Here's how the show was structured. There were two matches. Lex Luger versus Crush and Diesel versus Typhoon. The same matches that happened on Sunday Night Slam. They weren't the same matches because they had different finishes to them. But they were the same matchups and had the same winners.
Wait.
And they had Jim Ross and Gorilla Monsoon do commentary in post.
Okay. Why?
I don't know why they decided to make. I guess there was a fluke in their taping schedule, I guess. I don't know why they chose to do this way, but they did. There was no the match finishes are this time DiBiase got involved in the Crush Luger match. He got up and tried to offer Crush a bribe mid-match, and that distracted Crush to allow Lex Luger to hit his forearm and win the match. And then Diesel Typhoon, that match ended where instead of Diesel giving him the big boot a couple of times to win, he hit him with the big boot and then hit him with a clothesline. But again, they are structurally the same goddamn match.
Wait, I'm confused. Was it a rerun but with a taped finisher?
No, I'm pretty sure they just took this match from some other show that they filmed. I don't know. They must have filmed this at some point.
Okay.
I don't know when they filmed it, but it's not the same match as what they had at Sunday Night Slam, but it's the exact same matchups and the exact same winners.
Well, but why? I know you said you don't know why, but what could possibly be the reason for doing that?
I don't get it.
Was it might it have something to do with the fact they had a pay-per-view coming up and needing all hands on deck to do not Raw things? What?
I don't know what because this is the last show before SummerSlam. You'd think they'd have something new and interesting on here.
But the thing is,
they don't.
But the thing is, the last thing we watched too was the last one we watched Sunday Night Slam.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So the last Sunday Night Slam we watched, that felt like the Raw before pay-per-view sort of thing, because it seemed like that was all the pieces, all the final pieces coming into their places.
I mean, I guess WWE agreed because with Raw the next night.
But I know the new generation was rough, but was their planning really so piss poor that they were an episode short on things they could plot out? What?
I have no answers for why.
Oh my god!
And then
beautifully ridiculous and stupid trash fire end to this whole fucking
and
saga.
then in between their two matches, they had, as I said, they have Savage and Vince doing shtick in the studio, and then they replay the Bret Hart interview from Sunday Night Slam in full. That they acknowledge as being from Sunday Night Slam.
Okay.
And then they replay all 4 Leslie Nielsen skits from Sunday Night Slam.
Why?
As a positive, I did get to catch the Randy Savage joke.
Oh my god.
Yeah, as after he does this, trying to catch some rays, he said the girls were feeling macho. And then it cuts to the 2 girls feeling up Macho Man's arms. That was the joke that we missed.
Are you satisfied? Was it everything you dreamed of, Austin?
No.
No.
So there's that, and they
that's what you get for having expectations in the new generation.
I know.
Dude.
I guess that's on me. And then they replayed the bit that I mentioned on the last episode where Paul Bearer was on the King's Court. He got choked out by the fake Undertaker, and then they turned the lights down as if the real Undertaker is going to show up. And then the real Undertaker doesn't show up, but they all act kind of like he did.
I don't understand. Like, I part of me wonders if there's like some practical consideration here. Was real Undertaker like just maybe not available for some reason?
It'd have to be that, because this storyline is plotted so stupidly. If that wasn't the case,
yeah, I believe you me. I don't underestimate the new generation's penchant for stupidity at all. But that being said, like, with how dumb everything about the fake Undertaker storyline is, like, it's so ridiculous and so, like, over the top, dumb, like, cartoonishly so, hyperbolically so, that there has to be some, like, Undertaker was literally unavailable for a couple months span for some reason. They just, like, desperately needed to cover up.
Yeah, right. I don't have any idea why they wrote the storyline the way they did, but that would make sense.
Okay.
Anyway, that is all I have to say in the front half, because as I we've covered what the pay-per-view is like. There was nothing going on in between in the last 8 days of shows, so let's do it to it. If you would like to watch SummerSlam 1994, you can do so on Peacock.tv. It is like all of WWE's other content. It's all on Peacock now. It is $4.99 a month with ads, $9.99 a month without ads. And if you're feeling fancy, you can use it. You can look into VPNs and get the WWE Network for $9.99 if you'd like your wrestling content a little better organized. And you can probably find at least one of the matches online. I didn't check YouTube. I should start doing that, because WWE does post some of their full-length matches on YouTube, as well as, of course, randos putting up copyrighted video on YouTube, as you do. But, I'm sure if you went looking, you could find at least the bigger matches on the show.
Oh, low key, when you said we cut out Bull Nakano versus Alundra Blaze, I literally went to YouTube to look it up, and it was all right there. So
yeah, it is super easy to find these individual matches.
Yep.
Anyway, we will see you guys in the back half when we talk about SummerSlam 1994. And we are back. We have just finished most of SummerSlam 1994, technically speaking. And a show was had.
It started off not that bad. A majority of this viewing experience actually wasn't terrible.
Mm-hmm. To be fair, we did cut out every bad match I could have possibly shown.
That's true, and Bull Nakano, rip. We did start off pretty well, but oh boy, when we got to that storyline that Austin set us up to follow this whole damn time, Oh man, was it stupid.
That was a mistake. Mistakes were made.
I can't. I just look. We'll reflect more on this at the end of the episode, when we're kind of doing our new generation wrap up. But I hope you've enjoyed reaping what you've sown, dude. I really hope it's been worth it.
Me sowing. Fuck yeah, this is awesome. Me reaping. What the fuck? No, it's awful.
It is truly a grim reaper around here. Anyway,
it's like the Grim Reapers at ringside. Anyway,
yeah.
Let's get into it. So it starts with Randy Savage coming out to like be an MC, kinda.
Yeah, he was there for like the beginning and the end. Like I kind of forgot that he was there for most of it.
Yeah. He was just gonna be like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Oh yeah, dig it." And then DiBiase, Vince and Jerry Lawler are the commentators. They run down the show. They also explain the big news from the weekend is over the weekend at one of the house shows. Diesel and Shawn Michaels beat the Head Shrinkers to become the tag team champions.
Which is from what you've described to me of house shows, the semi canonicity. Interesting that they decided to carry that over.
Yeah, this is still an era where occasionally championships will be won at house shows. It's been regularly phased out since like the 1980s. It's been slowly but surely phased out, and nowadays it still technically happens like once every couple of years. But at this point, house shows they're canon when they say they're canon when stuff happens, and not canon when nothing happens. That's how that works.
Fair enough. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. So so now Diesel is Intercontinental Champion and tag team champions with Shawn.
Yes. And Shawn and Diesel cut a promo, and it's basically what you'd expect from Shawn and Diesel. It's like we're gonna kick some ass, go get him, buddy. We're surprisingly wholesome BFFs for being the like super nasty, infamous heels that we are.
Yeah. So before we get to their match, the two matches that we skipped, Bam Bam Bigelow and IRS beat the Head Shrinkers by DQ because they was too busy punching each other, and Alundra Blaze beat Bull Nakano to retain the title.
Boo! Give us Barabbas.
So yes, the first match that we watched, Razor Ramon versus Diesel for the Intercontinental title.
It was a wild one for several reasons. So I mean, overall, the match was about what you'd expect. It's Razor Ramon and Diesel. They're both super talented. A lot of fun little things to remark on though, with their matchup specifically. This was the really noticed just kind of how long Diesel is. He's a lanky boy.
Oh yeah, dude has such an interesting body shape of having like a relatively large torso, but then his arms are kind of skinny, and then he's got like chicken legs that he hides behind his pants.
I know his legs are a zillion miles tall, and he just uses them for everything. The level to which he uses his legs made a lot more sense to me when I realized like, oh wow, his legs really are just that long, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
Oh my Christ. And he's throwing poor Razor around for about the first half of this match. Razor Ramon just getting tossed around like a bitch.
Yeah, and whenever Diesel needs a little help, Shawn is there. Walter Payton not doing his job at stopping Shawn Michaels even a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have trusty old what's his face? The
referee?
No. No, Walter Payton. Walter Payton snitches.
No, he snitches, but he also doesn't stop Shawn from doing anything.
Oh, that's fair. That is kind of funny that like that he's brought in to be like, anti-Shawn protection, and he does that by just being a fucking snitch to the rest the whole time.
Yeah, he basically the entire it's a reoccurring bit the entire match of like Shawn will do stuff to cheat, to like set up stuff. He will set up instances to help Diesel cheat, and then like Walter Payton will be like, "Hey, ref, look at that."
Walter Payton's really like Karening it up in here. Like, hey, ref, I'd like to speak to your manager, please.
I'd like to speak to the manager. Yeah. Again, he doesn't get physical with Shawn until the very end. He doesn't even try.
I know.
Like,
it's so stupid.
So he looks completely ineffectual in his designated role of being guy who stops Shawn Michaels from being a pest.
Which is funny because the entire time on commentary, Lawler's just like ragging on Payton for getting too involved, and it's like I'm pretty sure like it's the exact opposite problem of what's happening here.
That's the joke.
I mean, yeah. I mean, this episode is another of those great examples of just how hard Jerry Lawler will stretch as a heel commentator to justify any bullshit whatsoever. He's just so over the top with his buffoonish like villainy that he will just do anything to like poo-poo on the good guys. Like hey Walter, get out of there. As Shawn's currently like making an active attempt to like kick the ref in the nuts, and Walter's just like, excuse me, this isn't correct.
Hey, hello, yes, this is against the rules.
Yes, hello, I'd like to file a formal complaint, please, on behalf of my client, Razor Ramon.
Can someone throw a flag?
Yeah. I'd like a flag on the play, please, ref.
Yeah. What are you doing, ref?
What are you doing, ref? Come on, buddy. We talked about this.
Hey, you saw the Survivor Series commercial. There is no personal flags for personal fouls in this place.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's so funny that they're like on one hand throwing flack at the NFL for like daring to exist on Thanksgiving, while also like being buddy with Walter Payton, being like, "Hey, we cool, right?"
I know, taking some shots. Anyway, so. Yeah, it follows a pretty simple to follow trend of like, Diesel, Diesel has a lot of advantage, and whenever Razor gets an opportunity, Shawn usually cuts him off. Yeah. And they follow this pattern all the way to the end where Shawn, first of all, Walter Payton, the Fiend, steals the Intercontinental title that Shawn was hanging on to. That Fiend.
Which I wonder why he really trying to keep that out of like Shawn's reach because Shawn was going to use it as like a weapon.
I believe he was. He was. Yeah.
Because that's what it felt like.
Yeah, and then I forget the exact sequence of events of this, but like in the between there, Shawn runs into the ring at some point to try to kick Diesel. Not Diesel. He kicked Razor. With the sweet chin music, but then Razor ducks and he hits Diesel, and then we get an overly long sequence of Walter Payton running around the ring trying to chase Shawn down.
But it's not even running; like they're just kind of like power walking around the ring.
They're not running; like it's a brisk pace around the ring. And then eventually, Razor is able to pin Diesel and win the Intercontinental title totally because Shawn fucked this up.
Yeah. There is a certain poetic, ironic justice to Diesel getting fucked over by some leggy action.
And then, so, is Razor celebrating. He's the new Intercontinental champion. Diesel's pissed at Shawn.
Yeah, and he's just like, come at me, bro, all the way into the locker room.
Meanwhile, Shawn's just like, I'm just gonna go now.
It's so interesting to me, like this episode, as the culmination of our time in the new generation, it's such a great highlight of the weird relationship that WWF in this era had with its like moral play, because all of the heels are very silly, and very over the top and like cartoonishly like maniacal, and at the same time like make no sense. It almost feels in a way like WWF writing wise, when it comes to like, the good guys versus the bad guys, they're really just going through motions here. And we'll touch on this more when Austin and I undoubtedly spend a majority of this back half just like angrily shouting about the double Undertaker storyline. No. But even this, like the Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon thing, and then we have Walter Payton here to like try to keep the peace but fail miserably while still catching flack from Jerry Lawler. Like, it so much feels like this era was going through the motions, and whether or not it actually came off well was entirely incumbent on the performers to like make something out of the very silly two-dimensional material they were given.
Yeah, yeah. I think the story that comes after this with Shawn and Diesel is relatively interesting from what I've seen of it.
Okay.
This is basically Diesel's on the train to becoming the next attempt at the next Hulk Hogan.
Oh yeah.
Train. Like he's on the truck. And so like this is all setting up like getting him away from Shawn, because Shawn's still the heel, still got to be the heel here, and getting him deep, higher up into the world title scene.
Which, like, I really don't get why. Like, okay, watching New Generation, I have come to
because Diesel is big, tall, and the people think he is cool. Therefore,
I guess so. Like, I will admit, one thing I will admit about the New Generation era, I'm eating my hat a little bit in like taking back some of my initial judgments of some of these things. Like, we've come a long way from when we first started this storyline to now, just time-wise. And that has given me time to go a lot more down the wrestling media history rabbit hole. And I've gained more of an appreciation for people like Diesel, and for especially for people like Shawn Michaels. And I do sit here and broadly enjoy them a bit more and can recognize their talents and feel a little more invested in who they are as characters. That being said, for as much as I've kind of come around on Diesel, like, it just the randomness with which they're assigning him to be like, you're going to be our next like superstar, good guy, everything, new Hulk Hogan. It still just feels like they're slamming a randomizer button. Like, I get physically he's impressive, sure, but character-wise, presentation-wise, charisma-wise, he's not feel there like yet. Yeah, he doesn't feel like a standout. Like, he works as a double act with Shawn, but when I think of him, I don't think of like somebody who could rise to the same cultural hero level as Hulk Hogan.
I mean, I would like to point out that when Diesel wins the title and holds it for a year, it is statistically speaking, the worst financial year in the history of WWE. So clearly your observations were shared by the audience of 1994 and 1995.
Yeah, and I don't want to pin that all on Diesel, but like,
it's absolutely not all on him, because holy shit. If you look at his like feuds when he was champion, there's a lot of garbage in there.
Oh god. But yeah,
it's basically like Shawn and Bret pop up every once in a while. That's not terrible. But then he's doing dumb bullshit with Mabel of Men on a Mission.
That's Christ. I will say hitting the randomizer button to make Diesel weirdly important. Somehow this isn't the first time we've seen this on this show now at Summer of Punk. But
thanks.
But so like
Diesel sent a pager to himself.
Yeah.
to stick Shawn. Yeah.
That's why he's involved with Summer of Punk now for some reason, despite like there being no reason for him to be, especially like as a retired wrestler who's never name dropped as part of the Jesus. Anyway, no, I'm not going back down that rabbit hole. Okay, must focus.
Focus on 94.
No. But yeah, it was a good, really good match overall. Diesel gave a great show. Razor gave a great show. Something I noted, and this is gonna be kind of this. It's kind of interesting to me is I talk a lot about pacing of matches on this show, and this is another one that it went slower.
I got a lot to say about pacing in the next one.
Well, yeah. This one went slower, and it was kind of interesting. So a bit of like personal background for me is being the theater nerd that I am. I do every once in a while go to stage combat classes, And I went to one last night. It was all about like fake hand-to-hand combat, which is really interesting as someone who now like dissects wrestling as a content creator. And one of the things the teacher pointed out, teacher, by the way, who apparently like consulted on the like case of Bret Hart's death, funny enough, he talks about like doing blocks and how if you like block a move, it's very Western to just block the move and then go into like one hard punch and then like kind of keep it going at that pace. Whereas to go more of an Eastern style, you block and then like you go 3 moves up the arm and then you go like 3 more moves on the face or something. And it did kind of put into perspective like why that's so much the aesthetic I see in a lot of like, you know, American wrestling stuff, because it is kind of that almost like street brawl aesthetic, which especially works for characters like Diesel and Razor, who feel very much like they're meant to be drawn from the streets.
I don't understand Diesel's character backstory. Like, why is he called Diesel? In an era where everyone is super literal in what they are and what they're about, why is Diesel named after a truck? But he's not literally a truck.
Oh, is he not just a trucker, an ex-trucker?
No, I don't. Oh. He came in as Shawn's bodyguard, but I've never seen his character I don't understand his character backstory. But anyway, as you were saying.
Yeah, no, but with that in mind, it was really cool to watch, and with the perspective of with these two characters up against each other, you know, for as nondescript as Diesel's character is, it does feel like this kind of like street fight aesthetic, which worked. The Razor, I mean, Razor is the Scarface knockoff, and Diesel is the bodyguard. These two dudes going big, hard, punchy on each other. While I still very much prefer the faster paced fighting overall, with that in mind, the way that communicates to the audience just how hard these punches are getting thrown, I can appreciate kind of what the style says about the fight that's going on.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they do make it work really well, even if it's a little slower than would be my preference to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Diesel takes the L. Razor gets the dub. Yep. Yes, and we get some Leslie. I guess is the best time to talk about the Leslie Nielsen skits.
Oh God.
Anyway, so they pepper these throughout the show, and I think the first one was actually before the Razor match. But so the first one is he is on the Undertaker's. He's on the hot trail of the Undertaker, and he's following a bunch of signs that say Undertaker Trail. Mm-hmm. So, and then he talks of hearing a voice from beyond, and these two guys show up and be like, "Hey, pal, you can't be back here." And they do a bunch of jokes that would make more sense if I knew like 1994 actors.
Yeah,
like it's very clearly, I can understand in context that we're making jokes about either actors from 1994 or like Leslie Nielsen's other acting roles, but I'm not familiar enough with either of those to really understand the jokes.
Yeah. They let him basically they let him pass because they recognize him as someone
of importance. Yeah,
someone of importance. And I was hugely disappointed they didn't make an airplane reference.
Yes. Then we do get the bit where they go, "Hey, buddy," and he's like, "My name's not Buddy." And then he goes down the hallway and he thinks he's found the Undertaker just hanging out in the hallway in mood lighting. And the guy turns around. He's like, "Hey, bud," and he goes, "Hey, buddy," and the guy turns around, and it's his partner George from the Naked Gun movies. And he goes, "My name's not Buddy either." And they're like, "What are you doing here?" And they're like, "We gotta solve the mystery of the Undertaker." And like they both think they're on the case, and that leads to the gag of them both standing on a case.
I will say the Naked Gun style puns are very fitting with how literally everything in the new generation is taken.
No,
we're on the case. Look down.
Look down.
I'm hot on the Undertaker's trail. Sign after sign saying Undertaker's trail.
I know. Some of those, I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just feeling it tonight. But I enjoyed the gags tonight a lot more than I enjoyed the ones when we watched last time.
There's something about the presentation then that I think felt a little slicker. With the like shoehorned in segments. that were like clearly pre-taped and everything. It did feel awkward, and it didn't feel like it felt like each one had like a central joke, and that was about it. This one, it felt like they were throwing a lot more jokes in, and it felt a little more authentic as part of the show, because it was like clearly like, actually happening backstage.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so that could be a lot of it. And I do, for as hokey as it gets, and for as bad as it probably might be objectively, I still do enjoy that very kind of like Mel Brooksian, very literal visual gags sort of thing.
No, I love visual gags and wordplay. So like these kind of jokes are up my alley.
Yeah, I mean, they're not very good, but there's something about them that I can't deny is very charming.
Yeah, and then later in the show, at about the middle point, they actually appear out in the audience.
They do.
Well, not in the audience, but they appear like in front of the audience, out in the entryway, and they're hot on they're working in the shadows, and then they put a big spotlight on them, and they're like,
no, cut the stream.
Cut the stream. But then suddenly the Undertaker, for some reason, is in the entryway behind them. And so the crowd is like all like trying to signal to them, and they're like, "What?"
I know, it becomes like a Dora the Explorer episode, as I remarked to Austin, as like he's behind you. Where is he? He's behind you.
But then they turn around, and it is apparently just like, okay, in the entryway, there's like a screen door, kind of a device, and so supposedly it was just behind the screen, like. The screen was closed when the Undertaker shows up. Then they turn around to look, and the door is popped back open, and there's nothing there. And so they go backstage to continue the hunt, continue the investigation. From there, we view the next two matches that we didn't watch. Tatanka beat Lex Luger in the biggest plot development that we didn't watch on this show, where it is revealed that Tatanka sold out to DiBiase. This whole thing was kind of a giant long con on the fans. It's all a bunch of bullshit. It was just a big plot twist.
Sure.
Yeah.
Again, going through the motions, and it doesn't mean a goddamn thing.
No, I again, maybe if I bothered to watch the Raw after this, it might make a tiny bit more sense.
It's just so
maybe,
bad.
But no, I don't. I'm just like, why? Why did Tatanka sign up with DiBiase? Why did they decide? Like, even if I get a character explanation for their actions, I think that my biggest problem with DiBiase's, both of his ploys in this episode that are featured in this episode, are like, why would he do this? I don't understand the in-character reasoning why he would make the choices he makes. Understanding it in retrospect that it was all a ploy. Like, in retrospect, why does he do this entire giant? I understand why he might have tried to peer pressure Lex Luger into signing by being like, haha, I have signed Lex Luger, as if like that's going to make him sign. But I don't understand this whole angle of Tatanka being like, you sold out, man, you sold out. Like, why is he taking that side if this entire time he's actually secretly been with $1 million corporation?
Like, it feels like they're trying to, well, that's the thing. I can't even say they're doing this on purpose, because I don't trust the writers that much. This is two DiBiase stories where they just like randomly mess with someone for some reason. So it feels like the character should be that like DiBiase just likes using his money to fuck with people, but that doesn't make sense for DiBiase's
and
character.
They don't necessarily play it that way.
And they don't like it. Like, that just almost feels incidental. Like the writers lucked their way into that being like a running motif.
Yeah, they don't call that out as that's what he's doing.
Yeah,
they don't be like, this is mind games from the $1 Million Man.
Yeah. And nothing in his character up to this point would ever indicate that he's like the mind games type. Like, we know what he does. He uses money to brute force his way into getting the things he wants.
Yeah.
Like
he does. He's not sly. He's not manipulative beyond how manipulating people with money.
With his money. Yeah.
But it's not the kind of thing where you like seek, but he isn't secretive about it. He blatantly flaunts the money around.
Yeah. And like, again, just everything in this era feels so half-baked. I mean, that's the thing. That's the interesting thing with WWE, WWF. To an extent, a lot of what they do is kind of half-baked in a way, just because like the format they do things in, it's really, really, really difficult to follow a storyline through a whole like year of shit, week after week after week, juggled with all this other stuff to a really satisfying cinematic narrative conclusion. But the problem with the new generation era, and I've remarked on this before, is that everything through just how defunded the WWF is at this time, and just all the creative constraints that goes along with those issues, just everything lays bare just how systemic an issue this is for the company. And it just things can be cool in the moment, but even the coolest things that we've remarked on this show, like the 1, 2, 3 versus Bret Hart, at a point, it like you think about it for more than 2 seconds, and it all feels unresolved, and all feels like so half-baked, not thought through. What are we even doing here?
Yeah, and God, I hate that I keep fantasy booking on this podcast. I swore it wasn't going to be like that. But I would like to point out that the $1 Million Corporation is in a tag team on this show. This story would make 1,000,000% more sense if it was like Lex Luger and Tatanka versus the Bam Bam Bigelow and IRS, and then Tatanka betrays Lex Luger in the middle of the match.
Yeah.
That follows a more logical through line than whatever than Tatanka for weeks claiming that Lex Luger has sold out to the $1 Million Man when he is in the $1 Million Corporation, so he knows that Luger isn't in on it.
Yeah. Which you just change it so that $1 Million Man is trying to pursue Luger because Luger's a big name, yada yada yada, and then it just fails and fails and fails. He was like, fuck it, I'm going for the tag team partner. And that's how you do it. Simple as that. And all of a sudden, like, it's still not great because Ted DiBiase's shtick, at least to me, stale really, really quickly. But at least there's a logical reason for why DiBiase would act the way he acts. There's a through line, and then we don't have Tatanka being this weird hypocrite for no reason the entire time. Jesus.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but Tatanka won, whatever, and then Jeff Jarrett beat Mabel, even more of a whatever.
Whatever, dude.
Country defeats rap.
I guess.
Whatever. It's 1994. If I looked at the music charts of 1994, I feel like country's taking the L on this one.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And now we get to the thing I told David. This was an hour-long segment, if you consider before the match and after of the Bret Hart versus Owen Hart for the WWF Championship. And I remarked to David about this while we were watching. This first part is they do this whole video package that kind of details the whole story.
Yeah.
And I told David, like, in this video package, the story is kind of awesome. Like, it tells this long story